Story 1, that your phone's microphone is constantly hot, and it's listening for keywords to target advertising. The most glaring instance where this happened to me was when I walked into a colleague's office. He had just gotten a standing desk, but one that goes on top of his existing desk rather than a standalone model. That's important to note. I said, "Nice standing desk. When did you get that?" "Thanks, just today," he replied. That was literally all that was said about the desk. We talked about work-related stuff, and as I walked out and checked my phone, there was an ad on Facebook for that exact model of standing desk. I have never owned one, wanted one, or Googled one before. Yet there it was on my feed. Tinfoil hat be damned, they listen in. Story 2. Natasha Jate was murdered by the Catholic Church for exposing a pedophile ring. This is trending on Reddit Conspiracy and Reddit Out of the Loop right now. Credit to a user for the summary. Natasha Jate, a model and TV journalist, exposed a pedophile ring on live Argentinian TV a few months ago after following cases over the last few years. She had claimed that she would not commit suicide in April of 2018 while investigating these rings, but was found on February 23, 2019, to be dead from suicide. Another journalist she had accused of pedophilia during the airing, Luis Ventura, had uploaded an image of her dead body shortly after she died on Twitter, and then promptly deleted it afterward. To quote the user, she supposedly died from a cocaine overdose, heart failure, or stroke. She had said that if she wound up dead, the people she had accused of rape, she was on trial and it involved powerful people, would be guilty. "I won't kill myself. I won't overdose and drown in a bathtub. I won't shoot myself." Story 3. Full credit to the user, The Next Village, for this one. The arms on Tyrannosaurus rex skeletons are backward. They ought to be rotated 180 degrees. What good are these stubby little arms for? We have found out relatively recently that Tyrannosaurus rex have feathers. It is now an established fact, Tyrannosaurus rex were not covered in scales but in feathers, like a bird. Take the arms on a Tyrannosaurus rex and flip them around 180 degrees. Now you have wings like an ostrich. We used to think of almost all dinosaurs as lizard-like. In fact, the name means terrible lizard. Now we know that many different animals that we think of as dinosaurs are more bird-like than lizard-like. Tyrannosaurus rex had wings. Not big wings to fly with, but wings that were perhaps something like that of an ostrich, cassowary, or emu, although likely much smaller in proportion to their body. Ostriches use their wings in mating rituals to make themselves appear larger, and to signal and communicate. Perhaps Tyrannosaurus rex used theirs for some similar purpose. They did not have useless stubby little arms. Story 4. My conspiracy theory. Facebook purposely attempts to ruin people's relationships because the drama gets more views, and more views sell more ads. Several years ago, they introduced a feature so that your comments on other pages would show up in your friends' feeds. So if you're secretly an atheist and you comment on some atheist page, it shows up in your devout Southern Baptist Grandma Muriel's timeline, even though it's a conversation that has nothing to do with her, and there's no reason for it to be. As a result, Facebook outs you to your family, and Grandma is typing away at all the evil Satanists trying to corrupt her grandson. And if you comment on a public post, it's unavoidable. You used to be able to control who could see your comments even on public posts by other pages, but at the same time Facebook introduced their tattletale feature, they took that ability away. Now, if they were to stumble across the same page, they'd be able to see your comment, but after that change, Facebook started pointing everybody you know directly to it. Not to mention, the privacy settings are difficult to find, difficult to understand, and with each passing year give you less and less control over who sees what. By forcibly combining everybody's social circles, Facebook is trying to generate conflict. They want to generate conflict because the conflict happens on Facebook, which means people logging on to Facebook more often and seeing more ads. They're essentially an internet tabloid. Instead of showcasing the personal drama of celebrities for clicks and sales, they're doing it to you instead. Ever notice how the vast majority of family drama, relationship fights, etc., these days happen on Facebook? That's by design. Facebook is literally destroying the social fabric to make a buck, consuming relationship stability like it's an oil refinery consuming crude. Story 5. There are hundreds of companies that operate tens of thousands of Reddit accounts each. They have been automatically registering these accounts for years, using scripts to automatically post and comment. They have humans that sift through all the accounts to make various comments to maintain these accounts. These companies have the ability to control and manipulate their way to the front of Reddit. Huge brands use them, special interest groups use them, and political parties use them. It's not a conspiracy. It's a real thing. Story 6. The ballistic missile threat message that was sent to Hawaiian cell phones, saying "seek shelter, this is not a drill," and later deemed a mistake, was a real missile that was intercepted before impact. Story 7. Dyson purposefully made the cable shorter over time just before announcing the cordless version. My Dyson Cyclone 01 has a 12-meter flex. My Dyson Cyclone 14 has a 6.5-meter flex. They purposefully made the flex shorter to be an inconvenience and make people want the cordless version. Story 8. Darth Jar Jar was 100% planned and hinted at in The Phantom Menace. But the sheer amount of hatred for the character made Lucas back down. I actually wish he went through with the original vision. Story 9. That William Shakespeare never wrote any of the works that have been attributed to him. I don't think I believe the theory completely, but the lack of evidence to support him as a writer is amusing. William Shakespeare was born, lived, and died in a small town that consisted of not much more than sheep farmers. His father made sheepskin gloves. Certainly not the life that would have contributed to the knowledge of the many royal topics of Shakespeare's works. Surely the true author of Shakespeare's works would have had the means to travel and learn of all the worldly topics that his works were based on. We do know that he did own the Globe Theatre and that he did work there as an actor. There is no record of his attendance at any schools. He was raised in an illiterate household. Both of his parents signed all legal documents with a mark, a sign of illiteracy. There are 6 surviving signatures of Shakespeare. All of them look as if a 4-year-old wrote them. They were all most assuredly written by an illiterate person. All of the signatures were found on documents such as a mortgage contract and his will. There are no surviving original written literary works written by Shakespeare. There are no surviving personal letters written by him. Surely a letter written from Shakespeare would be coveted as a prized possession, surely destined to survive to the present day. Mozart's handwritten letters professing his desire to poop on his cousin's face have survived to this present day, but not a single letter written by William Shakespeare. The only surviving written documents written in his hand were his will and a few other small pieces. All pieces of his writing that have been found were all written in secretary hand, a very basic form of writing typically used by poorly educated people. There are no surviving official documents that recall him as being a writer in any way. All official documents state that he was a businessman and a real estate owner. Shakespeare's will made no mention of any assets related to writings, books, or anything of that nature. All these facts paint a picture of a scenario where someone paid William Shakespeare to use him as a pseudonym for their own writings, and perhaps used his position as the owner of a theater as their own personal venue. The best theory about the true authorship was Edward de Vere, 17th Earl of Oxford. He was well known to be a gifted poet and playwright. He was also known to sponsor companies of actors, and he was a patron of some of the most well-known theaters. Oxford would not have been at liberty to write about the topics found in Shakespeare's works. The only compelling evidence that I've heard from Shakespeare supporters are anecdotes written years after his death by people who knew Shakespeare and referred to him as a writer. I don't find this compelling at all. If Shakespeare made an arrangement to act as the author of someone else's works, surely such an arrangement would require Shakespeare to lie to everyone. I'm certain that all his friends thought he was a writer. Story 10. Memes about the National Security Agency and other spy programs are encouraged by the very agencies spying on us to twist the idea into the absurd and to humanize their agents. Story 11. The Vatican holds horrible dark secrets and many answers to existential questions. And that Area 51 is a publicity stunt by the government to hide the real testing facility. Story 12. I have long argued to friends and family that Barack Obama may have been a Central Intelligence Agency operative sometime between college and being a community organizer in Chicago. Bear with me. After graduating from Columbia in 1983, Obama went to work for a company called Business International Corporation, a company that is known to have been used as a Central Intelligence Agency front in the past. There is little information available about this time in Obama's life. The Central Intelligence Agency was actively recruiting at that point in history and would have been very interested in a young black man with an Ivy League education and ties to Indonesia and Africa. The information would most likely still be classified, but it could also have helped his rapid ascent in politics at such a young age. After nursing this theory for a while, I finally searched for it online, and sure enough, many websites tout similar theories. Some of it convincing. Not the stuff about him being a Central Intelligence Agency chrononaut who fought Russians on the moon. That angle is less convincing. Story 13. Some organization or group of people wanted all the Kennedys dead for some reason. Edit. The term conspiracy theory and its negative connotation was created by the United States government specifically for skeptics of the official John F. Kennedy assassination story. I just felt I should put that out there. Story 14. Long John Silver's is some kind of money laundering scheme based on the fact that they have been open for as long as I can remember. But I have also literally never seen a busy Long John's. Toxic delusion that I ironically entertain? Perhaps. Story 15. The Laurel Canyon Conspiracy. Basically, if you look at the counterculture revolutionaries in the music industry in the 1960s, most of them were the children of military intelligence people. So the theory is that the free love, lots of drugs movement they inspired was done intentionally to distract the youth from a full-scale revolution. The thought was that if the angry youth of the mid to late 1960s were too high and getting laid all the time, they would stop caring as much about societal ills and then basically sleepwalk through the 1970s, which they did. I stumbled upon this when I was reading about Jim Morrison and how his father was the one who called in the fake strike at the Gulf of Tonkin that kicked off the Vietnam War, which was shown later to have been a false flag. It turns out, a lot of his contemporaries were also children of highly placed military people with ties to intelligence. It's strange that they all wound up in Laurel Canyon as part of the same movement. Story 16. What the authorities say. Mick Jagger is simply an iconic rock and roll star and nothing more. Theory from Ramses the Pigeon. The song TikTok, as performed by Kesha, was written by a guy named Benny Blanco. Its lyrics include the line, "We kick them to the curb unless they look like Mick Jagger." That's a little bit strange, right? Mick Jagger wasn't exactly at the height of his attractiveness when the piece in question came out. Stranger still, it wasn't the only popular song to paint the man in a pleasant light. Moves Like Jagger, performed by Maroon 5, was released at around the same time, and Benny Blanco also had a hand in writing that one. This is where things start to get creepy. The song The Time, Dirty Bit, as performed by the Black Eyed Peas, features the following phrase, "All these girls, they like my swagger. They calling me Mick Jagger. I be rolling like a stone." It was written by John DeNicola, who used to produce the music for a band called Kara's Flowers, although you might know them better by their current name of Maroon 5. The song Heart and Soul, as performed by the Jonas Brothers, contains a verse that ends with "making mistakes." But that won't matter if you can swag like old Mick Jagger. Antonina Armato wrote the piece, and she is managed by Downtown Music Publishing. Care to guess who else they manage? Here's a hint. It rhymes with balloon hive. This web of connections extends all throughout the recording industry, but one thing remains unclear. What's the link back to Mick Jagger himself? There must be something, because if you have a look at Google Trends, you'll see that his popularity spiked with the release of each song. The only time in recent memory when it has been higher is during a period in March 2014, when his girlfriend died. Some people have suggested that the man's name is just easy to rhyme with swagger, but popular usage of the word, in reference to something other than a walking gait, came about after the aforementioned songs had hit the airwaves. In other words, Jagger prompted swagger, not the other way around. Why does there seem to be a group of artists trying to artificially inflate the performer's appeal and popularity? What benefit is there in promoting an aging rock star? Who is actually behind this odd trend? In order to answer those questions, we need to turn to Vivendi. This is a company which owns a lot of stuff. Their subsidiaries include Dailymotion, Ubisoft, Gameloft, and the Universal Music Group. the Rolling Stones signed to Universal Music in 2008. In 2010, all of the songs listed above were released. Look at those Google Trends again. 2008 marked Mick Jagger's lowest ever dip in popularity, and the slump continued until February 2010, right after TikTok became the most popular song on the radio. In September of that same year, the Rolling Stones re-released their Rare concert movie, securing the #1 spot on 4 different countries' charts, the United States and the United Kingdom being 2 of them, second place on 4 more, and a double platinum certification in Canada. Strangely enough, though, the only other place besides the United States where platinum status was achieved was in France, which is where Vivendi is located. What if all of this was carefully planned and executed? What if there's a shadowy organization that's intent on promoting Mick Jagger for their own profit? What if I made all of this up on a whim and just found whatever tenuous evidence I could to support it? In summary, Mick Jagger is a puppet of the recording industry.